There we go. Okay. Great start. Okay. Hi guys. So welcome to another Tarcy Talks. Being heard. Okay, there. Check my audio. Okay. Hi guys. So welcome. And this is the 19th episode of Tarcy Talks. And yeah, so it is the first it's the first episode since Pisay went on break. So for those Pisay students, or I guess Ateneo students as well, because I also know that you're on break. So, welcome. Hope you're having a good rest. You're having a good break. For those of you, for the others naman who are still studying, ones that I know are UP. Lasal, I'm not sure when your break is. So for the Lasalians out there, hope you're able to keep up. And I'm wishing the best of luck for the next few weeks. Ayun yan. Okay, and yeah, so welcome to this 19th episode. So if it's not obvious, I'm running out of content, which is expected. At the same time, it's also maybe timely. I've noticed that viewership is going down. We're not hitting 100 views anymore, which, I mean, if this stops working, then it'll be time to move on and look for another thing to do. The next tool that I can use to work on and maybe reach out to other people. So I think it's good to not get too attached to certain things. And I've always kept in mind that this stream is just a tool in order to better connect with students. So, and that's what I'll use this. That's what I'll use it as. As soon as it stops working as such, then hopefully I'll be able to let go as easily. Oh, hi Bianca. Okay, so I'm not sure how long the stream will be. Depends on well, I mean, it's partly because of the topic. It's part of the trouble of thinking of a topic for the stream is, one, it needs to be relevant to the students. It needs to be something that I feel like we can dialogue about, because that's kind of the main point of this stream, this channel even, that it's so that Sir Q and I can discuss topics with the students, hopefully with the viewers. Normally we discuss it amongst ourselves, but also so that the students can weigh in because it's something that's relevant to them. So that's the main point, finding a topic that's relevant to the students. And second is to contextualize it in a way that is more relevant to the students in this particular point in time. So, and I think we've already covered more of the crucial topics, I suppose, more of the hot topics that are pretty discussed. So now we're kind of left with the, say, controversial, but yeah, let's say controversial. Some topics that I would always rather discuss in person with people, or at least maybe in an actual conversation over Discord with students. It's not really some of these topics because they're not good as broadcasts without being able to see reactions from other people and without being able to hear their side. So yeah, parang if you just watch it on YouTube as a playback, then you come across as a bit strange. But okay, so earlier today I was trying to think of a topic, and yeah, so the most relevant thing right now for me and for PSI students, because that is the demographic that we're trying to hit, even though it seems like 50% or even more of the audience is alumni. So, and the relevant topic right now is that we're on break, that we're currently in the process of resting and recovering for those. But at the same time, I also wanted it to be relevant to those who are still studying. So I kind of thinking, okay, what's a topic that kind of covers that idea of, okay, so you're either on break or you're about to go on break, so you're finishing. And I guess the topic that came up is these points, these I suppose checkpoints, whether you've just gone on break or you're about to go on break. This is the points where we either become too self-critical or not too self-critical, or parang too, it's a word, too self-idealized, maybe a term. So yeah, I thought, and the normal antidote for these views or this perspective is having a good self-reflection, to be able to look at yourself from a very objective point of view and analyze it. Oh, hi Jacob. All right. As for Sir Q joining us, it'll depend. He's feeling a little under the weather, and he'll message me later if he'll be able to join us. But otherwise, just do a short stream. But hopefully, I'll be able to get some points across that I'll be able to, which will be able to sustain us for like an hour, and hopefully keep your interest. Okay, so one of the reasons I kind of thought of this is because this is actually something that I thought about way back in the first episode, maybe a bit before the first Tarcy talk. And this was because I had at that point just watched one of the YouTube videos of what's his name again? Healthy Gamer GG, Dr. Anyway, I forget his name. And he was talking about basically how to kind of better, I suppose, discipline yourself, manage yourself, and so on and so forth. But what struck me more was a certain comment that he made during it, and how he was saying that psychologists and psychiatrists in general, doctors actually in general, score high on a kind of sociopathy scale in which they kind of disconnect or distance themselves from how they relate to other people. And I was also kind of thinking of this in terms of, because I remember a few streams ago, uh, we were talking about letting go, and it was a highly incompatible topic for me, and yet highly compatible for Joshua, because given our personalities, Joshua, I suppose, he admitted during that stream that he would encounter some trouble when it comes to getting over issues, letting go, and all these things. And ako naman, I don't have that problem as often or to such a degree. And I was thinking of okay, what's an episode to balance the scales a little bit? What's an episode in which he has the quote-unquote advantage over me? And the clear advantage of Sergio really actually is his emotions, or rather, I wouldn't say advantage. It's more like it's his specialty. maybe a bad way to put it, but and in fact, I suppose it's kind of like flipping the table on that previous topic. So the idea of letting go, it's something that I think I can easily do because I'm a little more distanced to my emotions compared to Sir Q. At the same time, we definitely recognize that emotions are important. So I felt like this thing about self-reflection would be a good topic because emotions are a big part of it, I think. And also this thing about the sliding scale of sociopathy. Because so it was interesting to me because what's his name again? Dr. K. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's Dr. K, or at least that's how it's referred to on stream. So Dr. K would say that in that case, for a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a doctor, a higher degree or a higher level of sociopathy is in fact helpful in their profession because they cannot afford to be invested with their patients, or rather not emotionally involved, or they would be emotionally compromised if such was the case. Because if you're dealing with someone, you're someone's therapist, psychiatrist, and you're dealing with them, and you become overly involved, then it could compromise your judgment. And as a doctor, as someone who is trying to treat the person, you have to be very objective. And even if you're not dealing with their emotions as a doctor, maybe you're trying to operate on someone, you have to kind of detach yourself and focus less on the fact that this is a person, I suppose. I wouldn't know. I never dreamed about becoming a doctor. And focus more on, okay, I need to heal this particular injury. And okay, there's a lot of blood coming out, so and so on and so forth. So what's the textbook way of dealing with this? So yeah. And that resonated with me because I used to think that I was a very empathic person. In the sense that is it empathic? Empathetic. It's not emphatic. Anyway, let's use empathic because empathetic sounds a little. It has the word pathetic in it, so let's not use that. Okay, so and so I used to think I was a very empathic person, in the sense that I could put myself in a person's shoes and imagine why certain things feel the way they do for them and understand them. But after watching that episode, I realized that might not be the case, because I'm actually being empathic means that being able to kind of connect your own emotions with the emotions of other people, and being me being someone who's pretty, I don't know, it's a good way to describe it. I normally say cold, pero, it's pretty objective with how he addresses certain things. So, yeah, I feel like I realized that maybe I'm not as empathic as I thought. So, okay, is that a bad thing? Maybe not. So Dr. K actually continued. So for these people who are higher on the sociopathy scale, I need to work on my diction. So for those people who are higher on that scale, does that mean they are incapable of being good people? Well, definitely, that's not a rule, because in fact, if you have a higher number of people who score higher on the sociopathy scale, who are doctors, who are therapists, then, I mean, does that mean a lot of our doctors are not? No, they are definitely capable of good kindness, capable of being good people. It's just that the way they operate, and this is actually something that I resonated more with, it's that their way of operating is a bit more intentional, so to speak. So if an empathic person is able to connect with another person, put himself in their shoes, and act because they are able to feel what they feel, these people who are more sociopathic in tendency are not able to do that, but are able to recognize that, okay, based on how this person described his emotions, his feelings, this is definitely something that is would cause him distress, and therefore I ought to do this. That's why you have people who are these philanthropists who are, I suppose, colder on the outside, but are also behind a lot of outreaches, a lot of charitable works. They might not be empathic in the sense that they feel the stress of all the people that they are trying to help, but they know from an objective viewpoint that they have the means to help. They can look at other people and kind of recognize from an objective point of view that given my situation and given their situation, I am in a position that to do good, and objectively I know that I should do good, so they're able to help out. And I think that's closer to what I do, because I over the years of talking to students, I realized that I kind of miss the target sometimes, and I'm only able to improve because I talk to more students, and so I suppose increase my database of people that I talk to, of experience that I learn. So over the years of talking to students, I start to learn, okay, so when a student tells me this, then this is what they're feeling, and therefore this is a good way to react, or this is a good advice to give. I'm realizing more and more now that although I am able to, I'd like to think that I am able to put myself in their shoes for a little bit and try to imagine. It's more, I suppose, it's less the power of empathy and more the power of my imagination working, I think. So, which is also able to it bridges this emotional distance that I have and allows me to address the needs of the students, which is kind of different from Josh and I. Is Joshua watching? Otherwise, I want to tell a few stories. Okay, so given the 9 concurrent views, he's probably not watching. Okay, so one thing that comes to mind that I can use as an example is, okay, so I remember this was it musical or Pascors? Probably Pascors. And so Joshua was a new teacher then. I shouldn't have said that. and anyway, so I'm the type. So after the Pascors, obviously, I'm not very good at lying. Especially, or rather, I will tell the truth in a way that is socially acceptable. in a certain sense. So whenever I come across students right after their presentation, like Pascoros, so I'll say that, oh, I really enjoyed your show. I really enjoyed your presentation, which is true. I mean, I actually enjoy the presentation. But if you're going to ask me, if you're expecting me to say, ang galing-galing nyo, ang grabe, ang galing-galing nyo, that might depend on if I actually did think that you're good. Parang, and parang I suppose standards can be a little high. So I can't say those kinds of things. When it comes to Joshua, though, he can actually, he'll honestly say na, oh, galing-galing nyo, grabe, talagang ano. And in fact, I remember him being so empathizing with a particular group. And so, I won't say disappointed, pero because he knew how much effort they put into their work, and yet they didn't win first place. That when he actually met with the one in charge of arranging the entire thing, parang he was saying, "Oh, ang galing nyo, grabe! I thought you were really going to win." He actually started crying. Parang it's not here, right? Just to say, just checking. So, parang ganun yung level of empathy ni Joshua. Ako naman, yun nga, kind of measured. I know what's expected of me, and parang using my brain, So, and it can be hard at times to kind of navigate certain things when you're, I suppose, a bit more emotionally distanced with me, as I am. You're kind of not sure sometimes why people are complaining, and it takes effort for me and people like me to kind of understand. And these things, these things that we do, this retrospection that I do, it's helped me, it's helped me better understand and kind of, especially when dealing with people that I basically don't understand. People that, for example, when a student complains that so and so is so hard, so the assignment I gave is too hard, when in fact I already compensated for it in a sense that if I work on it, it'll take me this much time, and I've allotted you 3 to 4 times more the amount of time for you to do it, and provided resources and so on and so forth. So times I don't understand. Objectively speaking, I don't understand what's going wrong, and obviously I'm getting frustrated because from my perspective, there should be no reason as to why this person is unable to complete the task that I've asked. In fact, I'm being very generous from my perspective. But I also recognize that I'm looking at from a purely objective point of view, and therefore I have to take into consideration the student's own circumstances. And even then, so say for example, they mention, okay, there are some problems at home and so on and so forth. I suppose my objective nature it kind of assigns points. Okay, so that would probably add 1 hour to the work, or that one, and so on and so forth. But it's not like that. It's not like that. If you really understand, you actually have to be more subjective in dealing with these things. So actually, the other title of the stream would have been parang objectivity versus subjectivity, when to use each, because you can't just use one. You can't just use one, especially when you're reflecting on yourself. You cannot be completely subjective in a sense that we measure everyone by their own measure stick, because if we were to be completely subjective, then how would we know when someone is doing okay? We have no measuring stick aside from themselves. So if a person says they're okay, are they really okay? Should we take them at their word? I would argue no. At the same time, you can't be completely objective because people have their own circumstances. So yeah. So Jacob says that the objective way is how most college profs deal with it. Honestly, objective way it's cleaner, it's easier. I wouldn't say it's fair, but it's like, I suppose, it's fairer on average. Parang which definitely is not nice to hear. Compared, it's not something that we want to hear because obviously, parang if it's like a majority rules in a certain sense, and just because something is good for the majority doesn't mean it's right. So, but I can understand why profs do it because it's cleaner. If a professor were to try and do some subjective method, how does he provide that subjective method, equally across the board? So, yeah. So, it's not fair, but it's like subjecting everyone to the same judgment. Yeah, I can, and yeah, in fact, it's by subjecting everyone to the same judgment. That, in fact, is the reason that it's not fair. So, is it relatable to equality versus equity? In a certain sense, yeah. So, yeah. So one thing that I wanted to do, which is kind of on this stream, before I delve more into the topic and why I want to discuss this, is let me do something on stream that kind of occurred to me like 10 minutes before I started. I'm going to do a personality test. And I'm going to do a personality test that measures, well, it measures psychopathy, which, well, not really, it's different from sociopathy, but hopefully, it gives a good idea of kind of where I'm at. Again, these tests that you take online, you don't really take them at face value, but at the same time, they kind of give you more points to think on. So for any one of you who does a lot of these online tests, feel free to do it, but make sure not to take them at face value. Okay, so let's try it out. So I'm going to do it on stream, and then let's see what happens. What's the result? So it's a 27 question, and I'll try to talk myself through my thought process and see what happens. Okay, so this is the one that I found. Honestly, I just did a sociopathy scale Google search, and then this one of the things came out and had one of the nicer interfaces, so that's why I picked it. Looks better on stream. Okay, so let's see. So I quickly lose interest in the task that I start. Honestly, in general, it would depend on the task. If it's something super interesting, then definitely not. But okay, let's go small agree. Hang on, let me just move my chat so that I can still see you guys to the other window. Okay. And then, okay, next. I sometimes find myself admiring a really clever scam. Honestly, no. Parang, even though I figure that I'm lower on the empathy scale a little bit, I still am able to recognize that things are immoral. I can appreciate that they're smart, definitely, but the overwhelming, parang even that idea of you are using your intelligence to kind of scam people, parang yeah, that's not something that I would agree with. Okay, most of my problems are due to the fact that other people don't understand me. Is this the case? Honestly, I think I'm pretty, you know. Well, honestly, I suppose I'm not as normal as I think I am. I often confuse people, I think, because of how I act. At the same time, I don't think it's hard to understand me. It's just that, let's go neutral. Let's see. I have never been in trouble with the law. I mean, the law, no. School rules and all of these things. Where does that fall? Yeah, I mean, in general, I haven't been in trouble with the law. I make a point of trying not to hurt others in the personal ways. Okay, then yeah, I definitely agree. But I have to say that this is more of an objective, a result of my objective intention rather than emotional connection to others. So, okay. Success is about survival of fittest. I am not concerned about losers. Uh, Okay, so I think this is my first point of contention. I believe that people should be able to bring themselves up on their own merit. I'm not going to call other people losers. It's just okay. So, for example, if a person is failing a class and they're not doing anything about it, then I can't pass them. But at the same time, I do. So, I guess I am concerned. In a sense, maybe. Again, I have to do this mental gymnastics in order to be able to reach that point. It's not as natural as it might seem to the more empathic kind of people. Cheating isn't justified because it's unfair to others. Okay, I definitely would agree. That's something that I would know. When I get frustrated, I get angry very quickly. I don't get angry. Or I get frustrated, definitely. But I don't think I get angry. I end up in the same kinds of trouble time after time. Okay, that's true. I'm not going to elaborate on that. My main purpose in life is getting as many good things as I can. I mean, definitely. I mean, but the thing is, this is very broad, and so there are many ways of interpreting this. Because good things can also mean parang getting as many good things as I can. This is so broad. Parang my student success is a good thing, and I'm definitely going for that. So I might be missing the point here. People who get ripped off usually they don't deserve it, but they could definitely be smarter about things. I feel like I'm overanalyzing the question and kind of nitpicking at the point I contend about. But anyway, let's try and. I enjoy manipulating other people's feelings. No, definitely not. I don't plan anything very far in advance. Okay, I can agree with that. Love is overrated. Love is overrated. I'm definitely nitpicking because, okay, love isn't overrated. But I feel like that the way people handle love and the way that they address their emotions, their actions when it comes to love, that's definitely overrated. So is love overrated for me? No, I mean, slight disagree. What's right is whatever I can get away with. No, definitely not. And that's more out of an objective anyway, let's keep on going. I find that I'm able to pursue one goal for a long time. Very good. I try to be goal oriented, but normally I'm short term. So let's go with disagree. I mean, I have a general long term plan, such as where I go with my studies and whatever, but it's pretty vague. So let's go with disagree. Making a lot of money is one of my important goals. I mean, it's definitely important. I can do a lot of things with money. It's just that it's not always going to be for me. But yeah, definitely, if you can earn money, then it's definitely a better thing than not making money. And again, I continue teaching, even though let's put it neutral. I feel bad when my words or actions cause someone else emotional pain. Okay, I can actually agree with this. Yeah. I feel justified doing whatever I can to succeed. Nitpicking again, but whatever I can, so and justifies to me, so no. Yeah. So in my objective brain, I recognize that there are rules and that they exist for a reason. So I'll actually follow rules even if they might seem kind of skewed, just because they're rules, and look for ways to change them in the long term. But yeah, I'm not going to go around them. I tell other people what they want to hear so that they will do what I want to. Okay, so see, it's compound statements like this that kind of make it hard to answer. I tell other people what they want to hear. Yeah, I definitely do this because it's easier to dialogue with people once they see that you're not out to get them. So a lot of the times when I'm dealing with troublesome students, I say things in a way that will get them make me seem more approachable, and to show that I understand them, that I understand what they're thinking. Because that way, it's easier to, it's easier to actually dialogue with them once they understand that you're not just exerting authority over them. So in that case, I guess in a sense that's true. but kind of an if. I'm often bored. Depends on the situation, but let's go with agree. Even if I were trying very hard to sell something, I wouldn't lie to get my way. Let's go with this. I would be upset if my success came at someone else. Yeah, I would. Looking out for myself is top priority. Honestly, looking out for yourself is top priority. Should be top priority for everyone. Of course, that's kind of a wide scope because as a person, I remember, and I keep this in mind a lot of the time, that base life-saving rule number 1 is to always save yourself. Because if you cannot save yourself, you're definitely not. You're just making another victim for other people to save. So, and it's only if you've established yourself that you put yourself in a good position to help other people. So that's yeah. I'll do I'll do the Disney Princess quiz some other stream with Sir Q. Para okay. I let others worry about so-called higher values. My main concern is to get what I want. No, I pretty much agree with higher values. Let's see, I've been in a lot of shouting matches with people. Okay, there's only one person that I remember ever shouting at, and that's Sir Q. When I was, I think, 5 years old. I actually remember that pretty clearly. I think it was twice even. So the only person I've ever shouted at was Sir Q. I don't think I've ever shouted at anyone else. So definitely not a lot. Before I do anything, I carefully listen. Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, anyone should do this. So I think I've messed up this test because, okay, so not impulsive, skewing towards normal on the scale. Oh, okay, so I'm between sociopath and psychopath. So I'm neither. And then, see, I'm on this axis closer to normal, I suppose. No, okay, I stopped at 5. No, I actually remember one that's later. The latest I remember shouting at Josh was grade 2. I think. I don't think I've shouted after that. Anyway, so I'm kind of dead center in the middle of normal to impulsive and closer to normal in terms of... I thought I'd be a bit more sociopathic. But yun nga, I think my definition of sociopathic might be a bit different compared to others. So that's okay. So that's it for now. So in terms of a personality test, that's what we're doing for now. Sir Q and I will do a Disney personality test some other time. Might be interesting. Okay, so yun. And let's see. So I suppose the reason I brought this up is the way we have to address things is always going to be a mix of objective or subjective. And I'm bringing this up because I can think of a lot of instances in which we hold ourselves to objective standards when we ought to be subjective. And at the same time, I suppose that's something that we need to really look at objectively. So it's kind of weird, huh? You're looking at a subjective thing objectively. Pero I think that's what we have to do more. Again, this is I have no background as a guidance counselor, though I am intending to take studies in counseling in the future. Oh, hi Frank. Okay, and but okay, this is what I normally see as a teacher. And I remember this especially during the first quarter when we were doing distance learning and at the end of the school year. And here's what I mean, that sometimes people take into account their own subjective realities too objectively. So I remember at the start of the school year, so distance learning, I was being as asynchronous as much as possible because I felt like there was not much added value to a synchronous class, because in a synchronous class, if you disconnect for even a bit, you've missed a lot of information. It's hard to catch up. But at least with an asynchronous media, if I record myself and put it on YouTube, then they can play it back at a slower speed with caption and all of these things. So there's a lot more advantage to asynchronous. The only advantage of synchronous is that you can ask questions, and which is why I normally dedicated my class hours to consultations instead. So the advantage of synchronous classes, I still provide it through consultation. If you have a question, if you need help, you can just come in for a consultation. With the advantages of asynchronous, that you can just watch a video at your own leisure whenever you're available and when you're in the right mindset to do so. Now, the disadvantage of asynchronous, I suppose, but I suppose that would be a disadvantage of synchronous unless you're super diligent in checking the presence of mind of the students in the class. So 1 month, 2 months in, I noticed that there are some students who are not submitting. And I sent an initial email asking, oh, hi, I noticed that you haven't submitted anything. Are things okay? And so on and so forth. No reply. Honestly, pretty much all of them no reply. If not all of them, I think, yeah, no one did reply. So I let 2 or 3 weeks more go by without doing anything about it. Because I don't want to be that teacher na... I know full well the anxiety of hinahanap ka and you don't really feel like wanting to be found. So yeah, so I let it go for 2 more weeks, and okay, I send another email, and yeah, I tried to, despite being as emotionally disconnected as I think I am, I try to put myself in their shoes. Okay, so what are possible reasons that they are not replying? And what can I do to help them reply? So I sent them another email at the same time telling them with an added note at the end, please reply to this email. Did I say I don't care? I'm not concerned about whether or not you actually have an excuse, whether your excuse is valid or not. I just want to know. I want to know the situation. Why are you not submitting? And then, depending on your answer, whether your whether you have an excuse or not, whether that excuse is valid or not, we can figure something out. So basically, I told them, yeah, whatever reason, whether valid or invalid, I'd like to hear from you. And that's when I started getting replies. And most of the reasons would fall under the inexcusable. I mean, if it were a normal school year, honestly, in this school year, pretty much everything was excused, I think. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'll talk about it some other time, maybe. But pretty much everything was excused this school year. And so I started getting emails. And they were saying things na, sir, parang inuna ko muna yung ibang subject ko. So, okay. Again, not a valid excuse in normal circumstances, but it gave me an idea. It gave me perspective of what was going on. Another one is yun nga, parang mental health and all of these things. So more valid, definitely. Some others, you could basically just see na, I don't know. I can't really judge kung tinatamad lang ba or were they really going through something. So, but it gave me a perspective. Okay, so this person is having trouble, more their home situation. This person is, and it helped me. And when I started thinking back on it recently, these people, even though they could be helped by simply responding, they chose not to respond because they devalued their subjective experience in a certain sense. Okay, Joshua, mamaya na yan. So, I'm trying, when I was thinking back on what it would have been like for them to receive an email from me and them choosing not to reply, I tried imagining, so what was their thought process? The thought process could have gone that, okay, I got an email from my prof asking about the situation, about my homework, and all of these other things. And realizing that I have no valid excuse to give, and nothing I can say can justify uh, uh, my lack of work, at least objectively, because yun nga, parang I've been feeling, the reason is I've been feeling stressed out, that I can't bring myself to work and all of these things. So things that I would deem as not excusable. So therefore, I'm not going to say anything. There's nothing I can say that can help the situation. And I think that's definitely that's something that we need to try to change. When my ideal scenario of such a thing would be, yun nga, I send an email asking how the student is doing, what is going on, and they reply, hopefully honestly and sincerely about what's going on. Certain, tinamad lang ako. Or parang I've been binge watching this Netflix series, and honestly I haven't been, maybe not that much information. I can imagine myself getting frustrated with that response. Pero I have maybe even going as far as saying, sir, I was not prioritizing your subject. Parang I was prioritizing my maybe self-care and all this. Okay, I can. That's something I can get more behind. Don't mention that you're just binging Netflix or something. But and yeah. So okay, then now I have a better grasp of the situation, and we can try and discuss and figure something out. Because what's happening right now is we're constantly measuring ourselves against, I suppose, that objective standard, and limiting, trying to, should have reflect on this a bit more before I brought it up, but I've been thinking about it. But how do I put it? So let's put it this way. I feel like when it comes to working with other people, we tend to filter what is relevant to the conversation. And objectively, that makes sense. I can understand that. So, yun nga, parang teacher, student trying to work together so that the student can submit his work and pass the subject. And so, the student tries to only bring up the things that are relevant. So, yun nga, parang, so, yun nga, parang, deprioritizing isn't really relevant. Parang, if you can say that you don't understand the subject, that's relevant. If you can say that yun nga, parang you're physically incapable because you've been sick, that's relevant. But then we also start assigning things that are irrelevant and therefore I cannot use as a valid excuse. So things like, yun nga, parang I don't feel like it, I've been feeling troubled, I'm not in the correct mental state, and all of these things. And I suppose from an objective perspective, this makes sense because yeah, it streamlines the conversation. We only discuss what's relevant, and therefore it allows us to make a better, good choices. Because the things that are relevant, we remove them from the equation. It's like I suppose from in the terms of doing an experiment, it's a closed system with no other extenuating factors. You remove all of those random variables and you only deal with the relevant things so that you're focused on what is important. But I mean, we don't live in a vacuum. What happens to you in quote unquote your personal life? I don't know if I say quote unquote, but I was going to say real life. But what happens in your personal life definitely affects your school life. It affects your social life. It affects everything because we're just one person. You can't just cut yourself off like that and say, okay, I'm in student mode right now. This thing doesn't matter to me. Okay, I'm in me mode right now. This thing doesn't matter to me. No, you can't do that. And so you see people kind of holding back information that they've deemed as relevant, when in fact, my ideal scenario, I think now, would be that bring up everything. Bring up everything that is you think okay, that you might think is relevant, and then let's decide later if we will take it as a factor. Okay, try to imagine the scenario. Try to imagine that maybe someone is running for an election, and then school election. Let's not get too deep into politics here. So school election and all of these things. So they're running, and they think about, they're thinking this is their platform. Okay, so when they're given an opportunities to speak, then definitely there are some relevant factors that you want them to mention. So things like what's their platform, what are their plans, and all of these things. So we're kind of wired to keep things on topic, to keep things relevant. But at the same time, there are definitely factors, more personal factors, that might be irrelevant to other people, but is relevant for you, or maybe not even relevant, but they do affect your decision. So maybe their background. So if one of the people running for, I don't know, maybe student council suddenly started talking about how, I don't know, maybe lumaki sila sa bukid, and then they had to spend 8 hours each day doing all these things. I remember watching we watched here in the center a few days ago this story of this news report of Jessica Soho about how there was this kid. It was very heartwarming story. But anyway, that's kind of where I got it. But okay, if you were watching that presentation, you kind of say, okay, yeah, pero that's kind of irrelevant. It doesn't really matter where you're from as long as you do good work. And I suppose if you're the one advising that person's campaign, you would tell him, no, cut that out. You don't need to talk about that. But I would say that if we're not talking about time and all these things, talk about everything. Talk about everything, and then let people decide whether it's relevant or not. So in that case of a student, so maybe they've been sick, or maybe their parent has been sick. It doesn't directly, or maybe their grandparent even has been sick. Doesn't directly correlate to them and their work, but it could definitely, on a personal level, it could affect them. And so, as a student, I suppose I can imagine a student going like, okay, I'm affected by this, but this isn't relevant to the discussion, or this is relevant to the class, so I can't use it as an excuse. So therefore, I'll just keep quiet. But now, I'm thinking, in my ideal situation, you bring it up. Sir, I can't take this exam today because my grandmother's ill, and I'm not in the correct state of mind to do it. And then it's up to the professor to decide, okay, is nothing relevant to me, or to not to me, but rather to this student taking the exam or not. So rather than operate and do things based on a lack of information, or what people have pre-filtered based on what they deem to be relevant, let's actually dump all the information there so that everyone can see it and discuss. So okay, this thing about you gaming all day, I mean, yeah, I can understand that, but I'm not going to excuse you based on that, so let's toss that out of here. Let's toss that out of the discussion. This thing about your grandmother, okay, I can understand that. So I can, based on that, we can make this allocation, but not more than this. So let's be transparent. And if people try to, I don't know, say na, okay, parang if people call us out saying that it's irrelevant, I can imagine that can hurt. I can imagine that it can be frustrating to be disregarded. But I think it's better than people not knowing and operating under certain assumptions. Okay, so Sir Q says teachers want to know how the students are by trying to have them open up to help the teacher understand. What about if the teacher doesn't reply back? if the teacher doesn't reply back, okay. Honestly, I'm kind of guilty of not replying back to some because yun nga, parang I normally operate on on the quote unquote procedure na if I can answer it now, I'll definitely answer it. But if I'm doing something at the moment, I'll answer it later. But sometimes later never comes. So that's that's how I end up not replying. I'm actually okay with students spamming me. Not all teachers might be though. So parang if it's been a day and I haven't replied, feel free to bump your email dun sa but yeah, I can imagine some teachers not liking that. Na parang I'll get to your email when I get to your email. But again, transparency. I mean, you're worried. You're worried that it's important to you. What's important to you might not be important to the teacher, but it's good to let the teacher know. They can't just assume. So yeah, that's kind of hard. Let's see. What about teachers that would prejudge a student and therefore make them scared to open up again? Honestly, that's why I'd like us to normalize this. Let's talk about everything. Let's, of course, as far as you're comfortable with. Nothing is an invalid reason until the prof says so. So, or parang in a certain sense. And yun nga, the thing about empathy and the thing about allowing yourself to be known is that it does come at certain emotional cost. Empathy is tiring because you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and therefore, so it's definitely draining. At the same time, allowing people to empathize with you means to say providing them with the material in order for them to get to know you better is also emotionally draining because you're exposing yourself to them. And if you've exposed yourself and then they disregard it, of course it hurts. But I mean, if we don't do it, if we don't show people that we're willing, then everyone just closes up and then we get nowhere. So I think we have a better chance if we allow ourselves to open up. Okay, will we get hurt? Yeah, definitely. We're definitely going to get hurt. But I also would like to think that it also provides us with some emotional resilience. Sometimes, of course, it's a kind of connotation to resilience nowadays that's it's bad because it implies getting hurt when you don't always have to be hurt. But the fact is, once you've been hurt, you know how to handle it better. So let's not discount the value of resilience. It's better if you didn't get hurt, definitely. But let's see. Opening up means being vulnerable to rejection and judgment. Okay, yeah, definitely. So you definitely. I think the burden is on teachers, definitely, to kind of encourage this behavior in the same way that you actually have to prompt students to allow them to mention they have these things that are not valid reasons, pero mention them all the same. But yeah. Let's see. I've seen posts on FB of teachers shaming students for what they deem as inappropriate behavior. Definitely not good. And honestly, we can pretty much boil down this session as to let's all be honest with each other. Let's all say what's on our minds, and let's not get offended at the things that are being said. As much as we can. Of course, we're definitely going to get hurt, but let's not act all offended and disregard what was said just because we're hurt. So if a person, okay, I'll admit, when a person says that they didn't do my work, the work that I signed, because other things are more important, definitely hurts. Because I've already provided so much material that they can do things, but okay, now that I know that, what can I do? Because if I'm just going to act all butthurt about it, then parang lay the blame on them for then we're just kind of stuck. Let's see. Okay. Good day, Paul. I just like to confirm if you've received my email. I've I've definitely sent those kind of emails, but we shouldn't be ashamed to send those kinds of emails because we kind of need an answer. So uh, we definitely understand if there's a reason that they're not replying, but since we don't have that information, that's all we can do. So uh, you know, I've had a student who never replied to my academic concerns, then started to talk about games and asked for my UID. Felt a bit off at first, but it made me think it would be a good way to connect. Yeah, I can imagine that would be. Honestly, if I were in your shoes, I'd be kind of unpaid. But I guess I would also recognize it as an opportunity rather than because yeah, with the added information, with any information that we have at our that we can reach that has been revealed to us, we can do something. So that's instead of I mean, yeah, again, it definitely hurts. It's annoying and it takes an emotional toll. But better to do something than just kind of disregard the information. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. I think to encourage people to open up, you have to let them feel that you are also willing to be vulnerable to them in some way. Weird if it's just one-sided. Yeah, I agree. At the same time, as a teacher, it's a little hard to choose what to be open about because I mean I could definitely open up about a lot of things, and unfortunately, those things that I open up about, a lot of those things could get me into trouble. um, uh, but the point is done. I suppose the point is to humanize everyone involved. That's okay. As a teacher, I get stressed, I get frustrated, and all these things. I can understand what you feel when you go through under certain situations. I was like that when I was a student also. But yeah, it requires a certain openness and vulnerability for the teacher, which I don't know. Some people have different teaching philosophies. There are some who are maintain that they need to maintain an image of strength, or which can counteract that idea. But as a teacher, you have to stay a teacher. Yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it. Let's see. Honestly, I do wish that people would use the guidance office a lot more, to remove that connotation that when you're going to the guidance, you have a problem. No, you go there to talk. You go there to talk about things. Let's see. Okay, so I like this. So Germany says when you open up, others open up. Remember though that you can only open the door. Don't get mad if they don't walk through. And actually, that's the thing. When we talk about ourselves, when we talk about other people, when we want people to know about our views and perspectives, especially when we're trying to discuss, I mean, you're putting the information out there. As to how they use that information, whether they empathize with you, whether they empathize with you but still have to disregard it, that's that's something you can't control. But it's definitely it's something that we have to recognize that it's the most we can do. It's worth doing, and to be aware that of the risk that it entails, and yet hopefully still be willing to do it. Okay, on cam or off cam? As in for the students? Okay, so I've always been on cam. I mean, it makes sense for the teacher to be on cam. Kind of weird that my profile pic is the one giving the lesson. But as for I remember telling my class during our first meetings, if you want your cam off, that's okay. but it would be really, 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 really helpful, and it would help me a lot if you turned on your camera. And yeah, it makes me feel like there's someone that I'm actually talking to. I can understand that if everyone is off cam, parang ang awkward na ikaw lang yung naka-on cam. I did that once for one of my classes in Ateneo. There's this prof. She's super nice. And yeah, she said the same thing. Okay, you don't have to turn on your cam, but if you can, turn on your cam. And then, ako lang yung nag-on cam. And then, I was waiting for other people to turn on their cam. Wala. So, I was thinking, so, do I keep this on? Or do I just look for some time to off cam? I ended up keeping it on. Because, yun nga, putting myself in the shoes of teacher, even just having one face, even though it's kind of awkward for me, it does help. And yeah, so I remember teaching this though, that there are ways to disable if your concern is data. How much data you consume. There are ways na okay, you can put some turn on some settings in Google Meet or even Discord that will kind of limit and put a cap on the data that you consume. So therefore, okay, so once you consume this much data, then it switches. I chat with my friends, turn on your cam, so I can turn on my cam. Okay, honestly, I appreciate the effort. If I found out that my students were doing that, parang even that sentiment, it would be a big boost to my morale. Okay, so yeah, I think that's enough for this stream. In a sense, na the thing that I really wanted to get across in this Tarcy Talks is that I hope we can be honest about the things that are affecting us, regardless of they're valid or not. Let's put all the information on the table and then discuss. Okay, so once all the information is on the table, we can start saying, okay, we can consider this one, sorry, but we can't because, you know. So, and I hope we can be like that in any situation in which we have to work with other people. You're part of some club or organization and committee, and then someone's not doing their part in the upcoming event. So discuss. And this person says, okay, so I have this and this and this and this and this on my plate. Okay, so we can understand this and this, but okay, we can't work with you if you have to prioritize this. We'll have to reassign positions or reassign objectives, assignments. So if we can be honest about all of the reasons, that be willing to put ourselves out there and vulnerable. And I suppose, in a sense, the hardest part is being subject to judgment of others, that we're afraid to seem weak in a certain sense to other people. If we're able to do that, if we're able to trust other people enough that, okay, let's just try to be sincere here, and really try to get something, have some solution out of this, then well, it's definitely better than kind of being silent and kind of being this quote unquote strong and handling everything, or at least giving the appearance of trying to handle everything. Honestly, a lot of the problems I discuss with people when they bring up some things that have gone on with their friends or their group. Yeah, what Nathan says, communication is key. Communication solves a lot of things if you're willing to be honest with each other and not give each other, a hard time for being honest. Okay, so yeah, I think that'll do it for this stream. I'll probably be gone next week, so it'll be Joshua's turn to man everything. I might be available through Discord, so if ever, Josh will just have to set up so I can join him through Discord. And then yeah, let's see if we can do that. So yeah, so since I'm like I've said, I'm kind of running dry on topics. So if you guys can just use the form, which I haven't checked in a while, to be honest, to maybe I'll have Joshua post a poll on parang questions we can answer on stream, and then we'll make an episode out of it. Okay. Okay, just before we close that up, I think it's also important to ask people if it's okay to share these things first. True, you kind of don't want to kind of put the emotional burden on other people. That's true. Parang, yeah, that's a good point, Gracie. But then it kind of sometimes it's even asking that question can be kind of, again, honesty. So because some people, when you ask them that question, hi, I'm going to share. Hey, I'm going to share something that's kind of heavy. Is it? Are you emotionally available right now, or do you think you have it in you to handle something heavy right now? And if you're the one receiving it, you'd be kind of, I can imagine being socially pressured to do so. Na parang, if I say no, I'm a jerk. If I say no, I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible friend. But again, it kind of boils down to, again, being honest. Na, yeah, parang putting all the information on the table. Yeah. How would you say it? How would you say that? I suppose. I really appreciate that. Thank you for telling me that beforehand, and I really appreciate that you're approaching me out of all of our friends. But sorry, I'm also a little overtaxed right now. But maybe we can do something together that are easy for both of us. I think if the person asks, they're ready to accept. Yeah, definitely. I that's true. But at the same time, I can. Yeah, parang if a person just thinks on his own and just based on himself, I would think that, I don't know, just based on how I think of it, my automatic response thought process would be that if I say no, I'm a jerk. But yeah, if I think about it more, then yeah. So let's again, honesty. Let's be honest about what we're going to say. Whether it's to say yes, whether it's to say no, whether it's to talk about people to be open, and so on. Okay, so I think that's it. That's good enough for today's stream, and I think I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Well, it's really a topic to enjoy, but I hope it gives you enough food for thought. This is really what the channel is about. So, so hopefully, let's self-reflect. Let's think: where are the instances that I hold back information? Where are the instances who are the people that I can talk to openly and honestly? And let's see if we can do things to better facilitate our communication with other people and work better. Okay, I think that's it for today's stream. So yeah, hopefully we'll be on next week if I can set things up with Joshua. So yeah, thank you all for coming, even though it's kind of rushed. But yeah, I'll see you guys. Well, Joshua will see you guys. I hope I'll be able to go there, be there next week. Bye, guys.